Hello and welcome to Making Tracks, which this week comes from the Severn Valley Railway. It's one of Britain's longest and best-known preserved lines. Later in the programme, we shall be discovering the reason for its success, and we shall be looking at the plans for its future.
But first, continuing our theme for spectacular branch lines, we travel to Argentina, where a working steam railway can still be found at the foothills of the Andes. What better way to start the programme than to visit the magnificent Esquel line running through superb Patagonian landscape. At Esquel Depot in December 1992, 3 locos were in steam, numbers 101, 107 and 114. The northbound train departed under clear blue skies behind numbers 114 and 101. The journey to El Maitan produced an excellent sequence despite with the winds which constantly blow in Patagonia. At El Maitan, 114 and 101 were exchanged for number 19, which took the train on to Ingeniero Jacobachi. Moving back to Elmiton, it was possible for a brief visit to the depot in pleasant evening sunshine. Many dumped and derelict locos were to be found here, along with numbers 114 and 101. Also in steam were numbers 9 and 109, due to take a special train on Sunday the 6th of December 1992. The main works for the Esquel line is located at Elmiton, and a visit was made before the departure of the special train. This fairly large site has its own work shunter, an 060 tank built by Henschels in 1922. The special duly departed over the bridge at Elmiton, which, according to the works plate, was built at Wednesbury in 1890. As the Esquel line wasn't built until 1922, it must have been acquired from elsewhere. It became apparent at a fairly early stage that the main reason for double-heading trains is that one loco invariably fails during the trip. Such is the run-down condition of these machines. This day was no exception, and number 109 was detached due to faulty injectors. Here it was possible to see the difference between the Baldwin Locos and their Henschel counterparts, which are numbered from 100 upwards. The Baldwins are distinctive in having outside frames, whereas the Henschel locos adopt the more conventional system of having the frames inside the wheels. The future of the Esquel line is an enigma. There's often news of impending closure, only to be followed by an announcement that the railway will continue to run for some time. In all reality, and taking into account the poor condition of the motive power, together with erratic and unpredictable services, the most likely outcome is ultimate closure. One can only hope that the line will survive long enough for more people to visit and experience this superb railway.
It's time, once again, to catch up with what's happening on British mainline steam.
On the 26th of March, 1994, the route from Crewe to Gloucester saw steam in action with an excursion headed by LMS Jubilee Class 460, number 45596, Bahamas, seen here at Shrewsbury. One of only 3 of the class to be fitted with a double chimney, Bahamas was for many years one of the main attractions at the Dinting Railway Centre. She eventually found a base at the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway when the evicted Dinting Railway Society moved its operation there. Introduced in 1934, the Jubilee class was a Stannard development of the earlier 3-cylinder Patriot locomotives. Over 170 examples were built, and all survived well into nationalization with the exception of Windward Isles, which was completely destroyed in the horrific Harrow accident. There's no mistaking a three-cylinder locomotive with its distinctive 6 exhaust beats for 1 revolution of the driving wheels, as opposed to 4 exhausts per revolution with the more conventional 2-cylinder machines. Bahamas is a popular and well-used loco on mainline excursions and should see services for some time to come.
Back in the early 70s, a group of enthusiasts came together to preserve part of the secondary line linking Kidderminster with Shrewsbury. Well, they were successful in their attempts, and over the next 2 decades, the Severn Valley Railway grew in strength to become Britain's premier preserved line. Many factors contributed to its success, one of which was its centrally located position, providing easy access for visitors and enthusiasts. Originally running between Bridgnorth and Hampton Load, the line was soon extended south to Bewdley, providing 12.5 miles of operation, one of the longest preserved railways at the time. Much of the route runs through pleasant and interesting scenery along the banks of the River Severn. And there's some good gradients allowing locos to be put through their paces. Not surprisingly, the railway soon amassed a large fleet of over 30 locomotives, mostly owned by preservation societies and private individuals. This in turn attracted a large number of volunteers working in conjunction with a small permanent workforce. And the railway soon gained an enviable reputation for maintenance and restoration of locos and rolling stock. The railway has 2 locomotive depots, the largest being at Bridgnorth, which also houses the main workshops. The operation has grown over the years, and recently a purpose-built boiler shop was constructed. Locos and rolling stock are just one element in the success of the railway. Many other volunteers turn their attention to the running and maintenance of the line, and the many stations have been meticulously restored, the gardens providing a wealth of colour in spring and summer. The railway also built a brand new station at Kidderminster when the line was extended from Bewdley in 1984. An impressive signal box was also built here, bringing the total to no less than 7 on the line. David Fruin, you're duty signalman here at Kidderminster. You know, this is one of the most impressive signal boxes I've ever seen. Can you tell me something about the history of it?
Well, of course, as you may know, it didn't exist originally. This used to be a coal yard run by BR. And when the railway was extended down to here, we eventually built the station as you see it in its present form, albeit not complete. And then as an ongoing from there, we developed the signal box and all the signalling that you see around about now.
Now, you run parallel almost to the BR line. Are you closely connected?
We're connected with a physical link, just runs at the back here. And the occasions when we have to use it, we have got a telephone link with the signalman in the BR box, which is just 100 yards away, just down the line over there.
The many enthusiast weekends held throughout the year have become a feature of the railway, with intensive services, freight trains and many locos in steam. The 1994 Spring Steam Gala saw many visiting locos, amongst which was 6024 King Edward II. Also seen was Bahamas, and standard tank number 80080 helping out the Seven Valleys' own loco of the same class, number 80079. An interesting visitor was number 4422, an example of a once numerous class of LMS 060 locomotives. The title of Britain's premier steam railway has been challenged recently by other lines. We asked General Manager Alan Rees about the difficulties of trying to stay at the top.
The biggest single problem of any railway is to be able to finance itself. Because by the very nature of the equipment we're using, it's all obsolete, it's all life expired, and of course it's very expensive pastime to keep it going. And that applies to the track, the bridges, the whole infrastructure of the railway, the locomotives, the coaches and everything. Everything we're using is life expired and requires a huge amount of money spent on it to keep it serviceable and safe.
You have a reputation. This is this first-class reputation you have got, this railway has got. But to what do you attribute that reputation?
Again, I think it's a many-faceted thing. We've got the biggest collection of working steam locomotives. We've got the biggest collection of coaches, probably the biggest variety of coaches. The railway runs through beautiful scenery. It's very authentic historically. The signalling and so on is all authentic. And I think it's a complete scene. The railway is a complete microcosm, perhaps, of 40 years ago.
Whatever the future holds, the Seven Valleys' greatest achievement is to have set the high standards for other railways to follow, and has undoubtedly played a major role in the success of railway preservation in Britain.
There are still places in the world where it's possible to observe steam locomotives doing the things they were actually designed to do. One such place is Java, particularly during the sugarcane harvest, when the whole country turns into a veritable Aladdin's cave for the steam railway enthusiast.
The island of Java has a huge population. It seems that every square meter is cultivated in one way or another, and the vast sugarcane plantations serve the island's needs throughout the year. During August, the harvesting season is in full swing, And that's when the country comes alive with steam locomotives working the cane fields and around the mills. The mills themselves are fascinating places with a wealth of steam-driven machinery. A vast fleet of industrial locos work at over 40 mills on the island. Some see very little steam, but have a large collection of working items. One problem facing the enthusiast is that the vast majority of loaded trains to the mills run at night. To maximize the opportunities, you need an expert, and no one knows more about steam operations in Indonesia than Rob Dickinson.
What did you find so fascinating about this steam operation up there?
Well, basically, I've always enjoyed the narrow gauge. I think everybody enjoys the narrow gauge in Britain as something slightly different from the main line. But the real attraction was the fact that these locos were built 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago even, and they were still doing exactly the same work that they were built to do originally.
But when you say narrow gauge, what do you mean by narrow gauge?
Everything less than a metre. They've got 600 millimetre, 700 millimetre, 750, 900 millimetre, even amazingly 670 and 720 millimetre systems. It's unbelievable.
So what's the main type of locomotive found out there?
Well, most of the locomotives were built by Orenstein and Koppel in Berlin, and most of them are 080 tank or tank and tender locomotives. They look like ordinary locomotives, but in actual fact, they've got a special articulation system which allows them to go around corners. This is what's loosely called clean Lintner or hollow axle systems. And from the outside, you wouldn't be able to see very much, but when they're dismantled, you can clearly see how they work. Again, they've got Orenstein and Koppel's patent Luthermuller system. These are 010s. From the outside, they look like 262s. But the end axles are geared, and so when all the wheels spin, you can see this clearly. They are, in actual fact, coupled up inside.
What more unusual locos do you have out there?
Well, you had to pick one out of the whole of Java. You'd undoubtedly go for the loco at Regisari. It's a Jackshaft Loco, and those people who've ever seen a rack railway, it looks just like a rack engine. The only difference is it doesn't actually have a rack. So as the loco moves along, you can see this gear wheel whizzing round, and the loco just proceeds along the tracks. It rides beautifully smoothly. Unfortunately, it must be absolute murder to overhaul, and so they never built another one quite like it. There's nothing else like it anywhere in the world.
But most of the locomotives, as you say, are made in Germany, not Britain.
Only one made in Britain. Famously, arguably, the last steam locomotive made in Britain in 1971 at Hunslet. And I've been out there with people who've actually seen this locomotive being built in Leeds, and of course absolutely delighted to see it still working. And the good news is that the people who run it at Tranquil Sugar Factory, they appreciate its value, they've no intention of stopping using it, and it's in fabulous condition. You see it working every year.
The good news about Java is that the demise of steam still seems a long time away.
Hello and welcome to Making Tracks, which this week comes from the Severn Valley Railway. It's one of Britain's longest and best-known preserved lines. Later in the program, we shall be discovering the reason for its success, and we shall be looking at the plans for its future.
But first, continuing our theme for spectacular branch lines, we travel to Argentina, where a working steam railway can still be found at the foothills of the Andes. What better way to start the program than to visit the magnificent Esquel line running through superb Patagonian landscape? At Esquel Depot in December 1992, 3 locos were in steam, numbers 101, 107 and 114. The northbound train departed under clear blue skies behind numbers 114 and 101. The journey to El Maitan produced an excellent